Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We're certainly transmitting live this Tuesday, 23 March, 1100 here Eastern Time. So if you're dialing in live, I want to welcome you to our third all hands since I took command. And I want to thank you for taking the time, whether it's live or later on, to watch, this video as we get creative, continue to be creative in the ways we communicate with you. This forum has certainly not been ideal, but it has had many positives. One of them is the ability to talk to the entire command in one broadcast. And also it's given me an opportunity to get some perspective as we've answered some questions live or with some follow-on conversations based on the topics that I share with you and that you may have asked about in the past. So spring is here, and I think that to me, despite any conditions, spring is always a time for renewal, right? So the air is warmer, the temperatures are also a little bit warmer, and certainly the landscape looks different. So that's how I want to approach this month's all hands, is with a renewed perspective for hope and enthusiasm that things are going to get better and better. So just over a year ago, our world changed, right? And when I say the world, I really mean the world. Everybody's lives changed. And for us here in Southeast, it came, not without challenges. And I've been a witness of how you have all adapted to, this environment. And who would have predicted that, a year after, 14 months after, we were still dealing with this pandemic. I think it has defeated most predictions. But we're still here, and we're still making it happen. Many things have changed, but the one thing that has remained unchanged and constant is your dedication to the mission to support the fleet and our supported commanders by delivering products and services every day. And that really, lives to the command philosophy that I set forth 9 months ago when I took over. And if you have it in front of you, or if you've memorized it, or if you reference it later on, you'll see on the first paragraph, I challenged everyone to be ready to respond to any unplanned event with superior performance. And we've done that. You've done that. And, and I can give you simple examples. We had a record hurricane season last year that challenged all of us. We had also something that is very uncommon and unpredicted, as what's called on the command philosophy, extreme cold weather, that you also did tremendous efforts to respond to, and that was phenomenal. And again, I couldn't think of a better example of responding to an unplanned event. But like that, we have them every day. I send, or XO sends, every CCIR that goes to hire, whether it's NAVFAC Atlantic or the region, and under which we report all the unplanned events, right? And we're doing it very well. You're doing it very well. And I wanted to take the time to thank you, because that is living to my command philosophy. It's something that was ingrained in your culture. There's no, the statement about NAVFAC Southeast being a great place to work, and in my words, the best place to work, they're not empty words. You live it and you prove it every day. So as a result, I think people trust NAVFAC Southeast. Our supported commanders trust NAVFAC Southeast. And I think that trust is going to remain high or increase the more we perform to plan, the more we fulfill our word, the more we do what we say we're going to do, which again, in different words, is the same thing as performing to plan. That is also in the command philosophy. And again, I think we do that better and better every day. And you hear me talk about it. And I, again, I want to thank you for that. Our trust is high. In the past 9 months, we've also had the opportunity to talk about character, right? Personal and institutional. We had the opportunity to talk about that as a result of DEOX, right? So everybody that participated, thanks again for participating, giving me your perspective. We'll do this again, sometime this summer. But that DEOX, gave me tremendous perspective into the command, allowed me to engage in some conversations that center around our character as an institution and our personal character, right? As we try to do, strive to do the right thing every day. So, with that preface, I wanted to now, just give you some additional thoughts on what's going on at the command, which is probably what you're wondering, right? And one of the reasons why you tuned in today. So, what's going on around the command? I could go site by site and tell you about all the great things you're doing to deliver products and services, but I won't, right? Because it would take hours, if not days, if not months. What you do, I said it earlier, you do it very well. But inevitably, one of the common themes continues to be COVID, right? And COVID, I stated earlier, it's hard to predict. We don't know when the end is. I do want us, as I stated earlier, approach it from the standpoint of optimism and renewed perspective. I am seeing, in line with the national trends, our trends to go down. We still track every case, to the person, to the contact, options, and track people that need to be put under investigation, people that need to be placed under restriction of movement. So all that is still in play. We continue to follow all the protocols. And in fact, if you recall, or if you were to replay the last all hands, we were sitting pretty much like we are today, except we had masks off because we had, physical distance separation. Some of those policies have changed, and we're adapting to them, right? So, new SecDef policy instituted a little bit stricter guidelines. The wearing of masks in all common spaces, despite physical distancing. If you work in a cubicle, that changed as well. So I understand, it continues to be part of our life. And I think the more we adhere to those protocols and those standards, the sooner this thing will go away. So everything, and you see it in the pulse, everything that we talked about, CDC recommendations, guidelines, we should continue to follow. But understand that within the Department of Defense and the Department of the Navy, some protocols are more strict than they are, say, out in town. And even those, out in town and driven by cities or states, protocols change from city to city, state to state. So you need to be attuned with, what's going on in your particular location. And I think if you follow the DoD protocols, Department of the Navy protocols, in anything you do, I think you're going to be even safer. Because that remains my number one priority, right, in terms of COVID, is to continue to guarantee, to continue to provide conditions that ensure your well-being and your health. So, to the topic of masks that I alluded to earlier, there is a Department of the Navy memo that, again, reinforces what the Department of Defense put out in terms of mask use on Navy and really DoD installations. But the Department of the Navy did clarify some exceptions to the use of masks. It's not an all-inclusive list, but it does include a provision, for example, for people if they have a medical condition that prevents them from doing so, then maybe an exception for that. If you're exercising it, if you're using a lot of air for the activity that you're engaged in, that might be an exception or is an exception. And like that, there are more. So I won't recite the memo, but I do ask you to consult it and find amplifying guidance there. On the topic of vaccinations, again, something that was not in play at our last all hands, but the vaccines are here and rolling through, at least within DoD, a schema. Even outside of DoD, there are many actions in play to increase vaccination opportunities. My advice would be, obviously this is an optional thing. If you were to ask me for my personal advice, I would tell you, if you are offered an opportunity to get vaccinated, do it. I think that three of us around this table have done it, and we're hanging in there pretty well, right? And so, DoD also has a host of Q&As in case anybody's interested in consulting regarding vaccinations. We are tracking vaccinations as a result of, DoD overall tracking and really, nationwide tracking. So I can tell you today that, there's kind of two categories. One is to be considered immunized, which is to have received all doses. In most vaccine cases, it's 2. And so at this point, we have 17% of the command immunized and 40% vaccinated. Vaccinated is the second category, which means people that have received at least the first dose. So actually, I was very pleased to read those numbers when I was briefed on them yesterday. That's very good if 40% of the command has started the process. Again, I would hope that everyone, if offered, takes the opportunity to get vaccinated and immunized. Inevitably, on the topic of COVID, and with my perspective of change and optimism, we do have to, think about the return to work. We've been thinking about return to work since this started, right? So, because we know nothing is forever, and we know that for many, the place of work is on the installation. And we've talked in previous all hands about what that will look like. I can tell you today that we continue to shape that because there are so many considerations that this is not something simple, right? This is not something that comes without a host of variables, a list of variables that changes almost every day. So I can tell you that I think the new normal still needs to capitalize on all the IT advancements that we've made in the past. And when I say advances, many things may have been in play before, we just weren't using them, right? But I think one of the greatest things that has happened as a result of this is, we really broke the mold on the ability to do, video exchanges, virtual video exchanges as we do our business. The phones were always there, phone lines were there, teleconference lines, had been in play, to some extent used. But it seemed like the only way we could communicate was if somebody had a VTC or not. I mean, to me, and then VTC on its own, because it's been around forever, was kind of like sunsetting because the equipment was changing so drastically that it was almost becoming obsolete. So the ability to, from your desktop or your government-issued phone, be able to have meaningful exchanges with your coworkers, with hire, with your subordinates, I think has been phenomenal. And we need to continue doing that. But the variables that we still have looming over us, is that conversation about admin reset. Admin reset will mean, 100 different things to 100 different people, a dozen different things in a dozen different locations. We know that it's a topic. We know it's been talked about. We've had data calls because it's a complex issue and it's DoD-wide. We haven't really fully defined what admin reset means to us. But you've heard me say it before. From my perspective, it means a reduced on installation workplace area overall. But like any change, we need to embrace it with engagement and enthusiasm, and that's what I intend to do. And really, that engagement and enthusiasm needs to be present today. So more to come on return to work. In the meantime, I say, we need to, and I've said it before, we need to continue challenging ourselves to improve in this environment. And what do I mean by that? We still have people that we're still hiring, we're still onboarding, and those new employees, I worry about them because I want them to get the right onboarding experience, right? EXO and I get involved on each and every one of our new employee orientations because they are that important. I need our new employees to hear from us. But I also need those new employees, especially if they're in the earlier part of their career, to get the right mentorship. And sometimes that only comes through personal interactions, right? It may not be possible today, but at some point we need that. And today we need that. And so, my challenge to all my supervisors and really everyone is to remain engaged with your people. Make contact with them every day. I think it's super important for people to continue to have that social experience, albeit professional, but it's important to continue to do that. It's important to continue checking on each other, asking, our people, how they're doing, or maybe even more open-ended questions, because sometimes even that's a canned question for a canned response, right? Just things about, that may be going on, and ask them, if they're doing well, if they need something. I was impressed, seeing not long ago an intern and immediate supervisor exchange in experience, and really I was thoroughly impressed with the supervisor because he was checking on this intern daily, and again, not checking to see if you're working, not checking to see how things are going and progress is being made, but no kid taking the time to despite the environment, mentor, answer questions, receive feedback, and again, that observing that exchange was very, very impressive to me, and I really hope that all of us are doing that. Okay, so almost there at the end. I can't say that we're without challenges. I won't get into too many details, but some of the things that also keep us occupied is, as I said before, the ability to continue providing products and services to the level that our customers need, to the level that the fleet needs to remain ready and relevant. And as I said before, in a spirit of performing to plan. So we do what we say we're going to do. We do things when we deliver things when we say we're going to deliver them. We're watchful for budgets, and we're watchful for quality. We're watchful for safety performance. So some of the other things I do is also remain engaged with our contractor base. I have periodic calls with many of them. I haven't completed, a full round yet, but that piece is very important, and I also need you all to be doing your part. And when I do this, I'm really promoting relationships and trust, right? I'm not necessarily, asking for updates from contractors. I'm promoting an environment in which, should we have the need to solve a problem, we have a base, a support structure, a foundation to solve problems. So I encourage you to do that every day. That is, described by others as partnering, right? To me, it's an everyday thing, and it should be like that for all. Our budget will continue to be an important aspect of our daily operations. And some of us just call that affordability. And many of our employees have worked in private sector, and they know what I mean when I say this. I think all of you get it, really. We in an effort to remain relevant, in an effort to perform to plan, we need to remain affordable. Because, I don't think that budgets are going to increase anytime soon. I think our budget as a Navy overall is adequate. Remember that we compete with the platforms that ensure, the security of our country, right? So we compete. It's basically the same, kind of money. O&M covers the majority of the Navy. And so we compete with the different platforms, whether it's an air, subsurface, or surface platform. We compete with that. We compete with, the need to train our warfighters. And so, with that in mind, our role, and our mission needs to remain affordable. And so, that's something we deal with every day. I don't necessarily lose sleep over it because I know that we can get it done. And I've got great professionals around me, and to include all of you, with whom, I am absolutely positive that we will, solve any problem. And really with that was kind of the end of my topics for today. We'll take questions in just a little bit. I'll pause to tell you that, if you've been following the monthly comms and videos, I started after a little tactical pause, started a series of what I call Bravo Zulus or BZs. My intent with that is to recognize everything that you do, right? So I told you earlier, if I went through the entire list, I would never finish. I want to, tackle that one bite at a time by doing monthly BZs with some of the great things that you're all doing. Understand that, I can't cover it all, but I am trying to, be as inclusive. Our list of products and services is long, but we do great in every one of them. So that started. We've had a couple already. I recognized, the top performance by people that responded to the extreme cold weather, that were affected by it. Again, we didn't skip a beat. We had some challenges, but all in all, our bases remained operational and fully mission capable. So, again, the intent behind the monthly BZs will be to recognize your efforts, in support of our agility, our accountability, our innovation, and our professionalism. So look out for those. And with that, I'll pause for some questions. The first question is, why should I get vaccinated? That's a personal decision. If you ask for my personal opinion, is the vaccines have a record of being safe, and they provide an additional layer of safety, if you will, right? So you noticed I've gotten both vaccines, so I'm immunized, but I still wear this. I still follow the protocols, but in my mind, it still adds just a level of immunity, not to be redundant, but immunity, as we continue to fight this pandemic. Another question is, will we still need to wear masks and practice physical distancing once vaccinated? The short answer is yes. So, understand, I talked earlier about the CDC guidelines. and so I don't want you all to get confused between, what is guidelines and what is policy, right? And so we have, and both of them apply to us. So, I've noticed CDC, for example, putting out some guidance for people that have been immunized. Well, until that doesn't become policy within DoD, they continue to be guidelines, right? So, an example of that is the CDC guideline that if you've been immunized, you don't need to ROM anymore after going somewhere. Well, that's still not a policy within DoD or the Department of the Navy. So, it's important to continue to wear masks. Number one, because again they've proven to reduce the transmission, but also because it's still a policy. The next question is, when does it look like we will return to work? I think I answered that earlier. The short is, I don't know. I talked about predictions. I think anybody that's dared to make a prediction has so far not been able to meet that. But if you can follow the news and read what some people are doing, right? So some companies and industry are preparing for the possibility of normal operations in the fall. If you've got kids that are in college or about to go to college, you can see what colleges are doing, right? But all of those have the caveat, unless something changes. So, but in line with the spirit of this all hands, I think the outlook is a little bit more promising. But the short answer is, unfortunately, I don't know. Do we have to have a certain number of employees vaccinated before we return to work? I think the two things are independent. I don't think that there's a particular correlation, at least at this point, from as a command, or at least as the leader of this command. I'm not correlating the two. XO, BD. I don't know if you have a different perspective, but.
No, sir. I mean, it all goes back to maintaining the appropriate protocols that we're going to have to continue to do until we reach the appropriate health protection conditions informed by CDC and the local state agencies about case rates, death rates, and the like. And that's what's going to dictate when we can go back to normal.
Yeah, okay. All right, the next question I have here in front of me is, how will we know if we are authorized 50% or 100% telework when return to work is implemented? Just consult your supervisor, and and we will make it a point to over communicate whatever the final plan is. I've said before, it's going to be a combination of, but I haven't drawn any particular lines just yet, because at the end of the day, I do believe, I'll give some general guidance, but at the end of the day, I talked about that, supervisor-employee relationship earlier, right? And it needs to reside there. There might be, circumstances that prevent somebody from teleworking, as we would have otherwise thought, and there may be circumstances that force is not a good word, that necessitate somebody from being fully at the installation workplace when the employee may think otherwise. So it again, at the end of the day, I think it's a case by case, and it needs to be centered, masked on the employee supervisor relationship. When will we know if we get additional equipment or iPhone for long-term telework? I would go back to stay tuned. Exo, you can answer that.
So what I'll tell you is, I know we're coming up with a plan. CIO is distributing specifically iPhones, smartphones out to the workforce. We've been doing that for some time, not because of COVID, and this has been a plan that's been long in the works. So specifically for long-term telework, I would honestly go back to your point, Skipper, about that's number one between the employee and the supervisor, and then you've got to go through the process of requesting those assets from CIO through submitting an STS ticket, and then we've got to look at the resource allocation and being sure that we have the right phones with the right people in the right place. And so that doesn't mean that everyone who's going to do long-term telework is going to get, the nice new iPhone, but we will have cellular phone capability for those folks that do long-term telework.
Yeah, and with that said, CIO is one of those, support lines, really, members of our command that has worked endlessly and tirelessly to support us. They're constrained by the same thing I talked about earlier, budgets. Mm-hmm. But I know, in talking with Andrew Freeman, the head of that department support line, they're working tirelessly. They're being creative. They've presented options to me. They're not material yet, but options that I think are again very innovative, and that will stay in line with what I said earlier. It's it's a changed ball game, if you will. It's a new normal, and I think having worked with many, I think we've got the best one in NAVFAC, and they're going to come up with great solutions for us.
We ordered more than half of the materials we needed last fiscal year.
Right.
So we'll be positioned to address the majority of the return to work with telework options, with CIO equipment, with IT equipment.
Okay, so this one says, what are the chances we might pilot this media with multiple people around the buildings in various locations, as not everyone can even view on supplied source on our personal equipment? So it's kind of, goes back to Wi-Fi on buildings, and really, almost planted, goes back to the last question, which I think, so that is a goal, that is a priority. I know firsthand, getting Wi-Fi on a building is a process. We can't short circuit that process, but we are working. I mean, I would say the end state vision is that each and every one of our buildings has a Wi-Fi capability, but it just takes a bit to get there. And Andrea is absolutely on it as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Then we'll have a new problem, bandwidth.
Yeah, then we'll have a bandwidth issue, right? So, but then that's something that's not foreign to anyone. Any insight regarding phasing of MS Teams out and new web browser platform? I would say yes. Check your email.
Yep.
It's not a Canada, but I did see the email last week. I think I read it. So part of me, because of fear of the unknown, it was a little bit sad reading the email, because I've come to like MS Teams. Again, I think it's not perfect, but it's very versatile, and most importantly, this old dinosaur has learned how to use it. I'm even teaching people, right click on the image and you'll see the whole thing, and some people are like, I taught a 20-something-year-old the other day that trick, and I felt like $1 million because. So anyways, I like MS Teams. I was sad to see the email that it's sunsetting. I think July is the date. And that same email has instructions on how we can start preparing for that phase out. That's it. I don't know. It's been extended once. Maybe it'll get extended again. But, adapt and overcome. We'll get there. Again, we have the best CIO in the entire NAVFAC.
All the questions.
Okay,
That's
so
it.
the questions so far. XO, anything you want to add? BD?
No, I would just, sir, if I may, commend everyone, as the skipper did, for your flexibility, your ingenuity, your innovation, your adaptability, right? This is what we need. Agility, flexibility, and adaptability to continue the mission, to continue our support to the warfighters. And the use of the commercial virtual remote, even though it's going away, has been an example of our ability to adapt. So CVR is going to go away, commercial virtual remote, MS Teams is going to go away as it currently exists. There will be something else. You and we will have to adapt again, and we will do so. And I commend you, and I ask you to continue to be flexible and agile to support those who are going in harm's way each and every day. That's all, sir.
Okay. Good?
I'm good.
No more questions? Okay.
How are
So
your
I'm-
basketball brackets?
Terrible.
Terrible, right?
Yeah, so that's that's one thing that remained constant, right? Still people living March Madness, and
Yeah.
it's a good distractor, and I think we need to do more of that. I continue to follow football, the FUTBOL. I know I've had many people that subscribe to that. Okay, so we'll adjourn. I will say, I've been, saving this moment of reflection and truthfulness for some time. If you recall, I think it was the first all hands, XO. When we ran out of questions, he asked a question and he said, "Who is your favorite XO?" And I wasn't ready to prepare to answer just yet, right? Because he was setting me up, and I just don't do that, right? I don't pat people on the back, right? Just because, right? He's a nice guy, he's a handsome guy, you don't see that because of the mask, but certainly that gray hair adds to the appeal. But aside from that, absent from that performance alone, he is absolutely the best XO I've ever met and worked with. And so is Mr. Killian. And no kidding, these two gentlemen have a reputation across NAVFAC to be the best at what they do. And I want to thank you for your service
Thank you.
and everything you do every day. So, okay, with that, it's on record. And we're good.
The check's in the mail.
All right. Okay, everyone. Hope you have a great rest of your morning, day. And again, continue to look at everything we do with renewed and wider perspective and renewed emphasis for a positive outlook. With that, we're going to sign off here from Jacksonville.